Hey, this is Tom Jacobs from tdjacobs.com and also healingsuicide.com. And I'm an evolutionary astrologer and a channel and an energy worker and a medium. I do all kinds of different work to support you in basically understanding yourself more so that you can have more peace with yourself within yourself. And also you can understand other people better for the same reason. A little karmic Libra thing with Pluto and Libra. And in my natal chart, and so I have this interest in trying to create more peace if I can. So this is how I do it. Um, this little video today is just a food for thought video, based in an astrological thing, a detail, which leads me to think about a spiritual teaching, a consciousness related teaching, consciousness expansion related teaching. So consider the transiting nodes of the moon. The south node is in Sagittarius. Obviously, the transiting north node's in Gemini. They're always opposite each other, right? It's an axis that travels, more or less retrograde throughout the zodiac. So for about a year and a half, while it's in a certain sign axis pair or sign pair, we have this opportunity to, with the transiting south node, realize something is emphasized, to realize something is very obvious and loud, south node. And the transiting north node is an opportunity to balance it. So we see right now some of the excesses of Sagittarius, and we might have Gemini invitations, Geminian type behaviors to bring into balance, right? We're invited to be open-minded, in other words, Gemini North Node, while we have our excesses of belief, our assumptions, our unchecked assumptions, Sagittarius, right? Sagittarius isn't only about that. Like Sagittarius is about wonderful things too, but if we see the excesses of what doesn't work regarding how we run our lives according to belief or what we believe and how we come to believe it, then the Gemini counterpoint, can help us come into more balance. And so that's just a basic thing. And we're in this process now with the transiting nodes. And so we're seeing not just the power of belief, but we're seeing like what belief creates. And the other side of it, the invitation is to gather more data, Gemini. To, yes, be open-minded, to do what we can to strive to be objective, right? Like the Sagittarius part is editorializing. The Gemini part is reportage, right? So objectivity is one of the goals of Gemini, because how do we know? Like we're not in, think about it from a journalistic perspective. A journalist should not, according to the training in ethics, should not make assumptions, but should follow the breadcrumbs and seek to provide data and to get facts and back things up. So right now, we're seeing this overemphasis of belief and what it creates. And we're urged to be open-minded. And I keep hearing from people that they want to be open-minded. And that's great. That's awesome. But there's a way to do Gemini that does work. Sometimes it doesn't work, but we're all in a process. So I'm not judging people who might be in one of these phases. But if you say anything could be true when you're working through the lens of Gemini, that's a way of gathering data, right? But from the perspective of you as a human, you have to balance Gemini and Sagittarius, right? So in a time when Sagittarius seems overdone, like everybody's beliefs are so strong, people are divided into camps because of their beliefs. It's a very Sagittarius kind of moment. It's a natural human thing, which is emphasized right now, right? And we're also coming out of the Pluto, Saturn, and Capricorn thing, which, using about orb of 5 degrees was early 2019 to just recently, November of 2020. If you use 8 degrees, it's obviously longer. 8 degrees of orb between the two planets. I just was kind of focusing on 5 degrees as like a focused kind of time where the emphasis would be activated or heightened. But the goal is to have both of those happening. But we just went through Saturn, Pluto with Jupiter for the last part of it together. So we're learning about our disempowered feelings regarding belief. We're learning about how structures, what we put our faith in, Jupiter in Capricorn may leave us feeling disempowered, Pluto, Saturn, and Capricorn. And we have a sense we need to take back power. Saturn and Pluto, the high level of it is, oh, I need to empower myself and stop this thing that disempowers me. And so we might get into those kinds of defensive fighting stances, right? So Saturn and Jupiter are about to go into Aquarius. So there's room for new ideas, new perspectives, and objectivity. And I'll do more work on that later. But what I want to focus on right now is the emphasis of the Sagittarius South Node. You know, this belief stuff is just everywhere and it's too strong. So let's step back and let's learn to be objective and don't make decisions about what's true. How do you know what's true? That's the Gemini perspective, the criticism towards Sagittarius, right? Sagittarius is operating according to opinions and hunches and beliefs. Gemini counters it and says, but how do you know what's true? So what I want to talk about in this video, I know that sounds like that's what I was talking about. That's just the intro. What I want to talk about is transiting Neptune and Pisces square the nodes of the moon right now. It's been happening for months, and it will continue using 8 degrees of orb with the nodes. It'll continue until, I believe, March 27th. I could be wrong by a day or so. It could be another day or so. But so something, you know, it's different than something square the natal, a person's natal chart nodes of the moon, right? That's why I want to go into this. So if we're in this collective exploration of what's true, how do I know what's true? Should I pick a side? Should I pick a stance? Wait a minute. Should I trust my hunches? Should I gather new data? Back and forth with the Gemini North Node, transiting North Node, Sagittarius South Node. And people perceiving they're surrounded by too much Sagittarius, so they're trying to bring in more Gemini, right? That's the kind of framework. What if Neptune and Pisces squares those two things? Neptune as a slow-moving outer planet, I often think of as you might feel up against an immovable object or an unchangeable force. I can't remember the phrase. Movable object? Anyway, movable force? Anyway, you might feel like when you encounter Neptune, you need to surrender because Neptune is slowly moving. And in my version of interpreting Neptune, it's asking you, is it true? Whatever you're saying or doing or thinking, is it aligned with your higher purpose? Does it serve your higher self? Is it in your highest good or the highest good of all involved? And then you as a human, or I as a human, we are left trying to figure out what's true. Now, this thing outside of ourselves, Neptune has a vibration that we often assume is outside of ourselves, but it's inside ourselves. Neptune is the function within a human that seeks to connect to a higher truth or something bigger than ourselves, like movements or masses or whatever, like getting lost in the crowd at a concert of our favorite musicians or band or whatever. Or addressing the masses, or compassionate service where we're responding to something, that's much bigger than we are, and we're trying to contribute something loving or generous or compassionate or service oriented. It's also about art and creativity. Sometimes we tap into a flow, a higher truth, and we're activated that way, where we find out we have the experience of our sense of self or our egoic self as connected to something bigger, and therefore not just this puny little individual thing that is meaningless and powerless. So the search, the craving for meaning is one way to think about Neptune. So you're noticing an excessive belief around you. Well, these people and their strong opinions. Oh, and let me bring in the Gemini counterbalance. Well, how do you know it's true? And the person goes, I feel it in my gut, or I just know it's true. What Neptune's doing here, as this kind of immovable force and unmovable object, is saying, is it true? Your brain and the brain of many, many people may ping pong back and forth between the Gemini and Sagittarius things. What I want to point out to you is there is a feeling, a resonance that is Neptunian of what is capital T true, capital R real, capital M meaningful. Now, your perceptive faculty, this is really important, your faculties of interpretation, the filter of belief, the search for logic, Gemini Sagittarius, right? Regardless of what's in your chart, by the way, this isn't about your natal chart, though, of course, if the nodes or Neptune are activating things in your chart, this will be emphasized for you right now. But just in general, as the collective human experience with the transiting nodes square Neptune, like activating this, how can you know it's true? And I want to offer you this image of that inner resonance, which is a Neptunian thing. So there are people who say stuff like to me sometimes, and I do emphasize Neptune. I'm a Neptunian person. I do what I can to stay aligned with what feels like a higher truth to myself. It may not be the higher truth that resonates as true with you. And that's part of the key to this, because it's not only about, well, in Sagittarius, it's your opinion. And in Gemini, it's fact. Because now we have a bunch of people who are listening to other people's opinions that are described as factual. And now people are saying, well, that's a fact when it's not. It's somebody else's idea or opinion. I even had somebody recently tell me that there is compelling evidence on either side of the debate about the virus about how big of a deal it is, the coronavirus. And I said, no, you can't do that. There are facts, and then there are ideas that people believe are true. So anyway, this is where I started thinking about doing this video, because it's important to recognize that, yes, you as an individual have a bias. I as an individual have a bias. We are vested in our opinions and what we believe is true. And we have a duty to be open-minded, to listen to alternate perspectives, to kind of take in new data. But if you are aligned with the Neptunian sense of inner resonance that connects you with the sense of higher truth, there are certain things you will not be open to. So for me, I want to be open-minded. I want to listen. But if you tell me that all vaccines are this or that, if you tell me that the government's doing this, if you give me a conspiracy theory that feels true to you, it doesn't feel true to me because it doesn't fit my inner resonance. Now, you might think I'm opinionated because I'm not listening to what you're telling me is fact. But there are things that are facts, and there are things that are not. So with this collective transit, at least until March, this dialogue is loud, and then it continues. Individuals, and therefore groups they make together, have the challenge of being responsible for what they believe and learning about where it comes from and having the humility to earnestly accept where they come from. And this is where I want to get to, the vibration, the inner resonance. How do I find that, Tom? I don't know what that means. That's your brain talking. So if you're grounded, if you're connecting to the earth, connecting with nature, if you're connecting with animals and plants, if you're eating foods your body wants, if you're eating whole foods or raw foods, if you're, right, not eating a bunch of processed things, right, if not eating a bunch of sugar, those things activate your mind to take over, your linear logical self, which is very valuable and important, ... but it's not everything. But it will tell you it is everything. So this Neptunian challenge we have right now, and I mean, it's been this way as long as, Neptune's been orbiting the sun. But as far as how this is being activated right now, in my view, until late March, and then to some degree, of course, as long as it's in Pisces for a few more years, and I can't remember that date right now, but because now I'm in channeling mode. But anyway, to figure out if what you believe is based in fear or faith. Always your linear logical mind, if it's the one bringing the position, it will justify and give reasons and stack evidence, but none of it will feel true to you. It might just run on its own steam. This is part of what's going on when some people feel they can't talk to other people who have different opinions or political beliefs or whatever. Because, and this is true of myself, even with my level 2 subscribers, where every month I offer it's like an optional 15-minute guidance check-in where I'll do like a bunch of calls to cover all the number of people, and 4 people will call in during an hour. We do 15 minutes for each person. And this month I realized that sometimes when someone shows up and they're not grounded or haven't opened their heart from a grounded place, when they show up, their brain asks a question and I can't find their guides because they need the person to be grounded and open. So I wrote them, hey, this month before the guidance call, please get grounded and open your heart. It will, because if your brain gets on a call, I can't always work for you. Like I can't do good work because your vibration might be centered up here, and all the things that the linear logical mind does, they're not love-based, they're fear-based. And the guides only communicate on loving frequencies. So if something doesn't feel true to you, check in where your body, it says that. Is it your brain saying, I disagree with that because I have data or facts? Is it your gut saying, no, that's not right because my intuition says this other thing? Or is it an inner resonant sense of that's right, that's not right? I play games like this all the time. When I'm planning work, thinking about class I might write or something I might do, and I will stare at the wall or out a window, and I'll just imagine it, and I'll see what vibration it has. Does it open me? Do I feel pulled in? Am I excited? Not my brain, but like my whole energy field. Or does it sit there and I kind of close down and my mind wanders, right? There are lots of times when my brain says, you should teach you should teach a class on this. And it doesn't work right. It's not the right thing. So let me feel into the resonance. So this is the challenge, the opportunity that you have. Not everybody you know will do this. And you might even be in this groove already and be sad because there's some people you can't connect with. The same way, and sometimes it's family, right? Sometimes it's friends and family and loved ones. But the point is that each of us is responsible for what we choose to vibrate. It's easy to say, oh, I don't want to vibrate fear. I don't want to be negative. But it's easy to say that, and that's a valid desire, right? I want to be happy and healthy. I want to be a good person. I don't want to vibrate fear. But you are responsible for figuring out how to find the vibration that makes you feel healthy and solid and spiritually mature, and how to run that energy in your life. So in a certain way, all the work I do is about this, but I'm just getting to the place in my work where it only took 16 years to be able to articulate certain things in certain ways. And I'm actually developing a class to help you learn how to talk to your guides and really understand what your higher self feels like. Thereby being able to communicate with your guides. But and look for that in 2021 for some classes on that. I don't know what they're called yet, but learn to talk to your guides, or higher self protocol is what I'm thinking about right now. Like a series of exercises over a couple months where I teach you how to discern different vibrations in you. But you're responsible for this. So you're surrounded by Sagittarius excesses of belief or unchecked assumptions and beliefs. And then you're like, where are the data? How can facts come in here, Gemini? You're trying to balance that, but then you're up against, does it feel true? Does it resonate as true? And when you ask that question, if your brain responds, check that vibration. Now, one way to do this is, one way to check the vibration, is it my brain or is it like my field of my body and my heart? Well, with your heart, it either opens or closes. Your heart is a simple circuit. You consider this possibility, your heart either opens toward it or doesn't, or closes. It's neutral or closes. And same with people. Like when somebody calls and you see their name on the phone and you kind of shrink a little, right? Or if you get excited, right? That's very telling, right? With the heart. With the belly, it's like something's wrong for me. I feel nauseous. Or again, I might try to constrict and try to bend my rib cage over my belly to protect it. But my brain, if it is the one answering, my brain will endlessly justify what it wants and thinks is true. For example, I was really into teaching this. I've used this example before, but I'm gonna use it again because it's kind of coming up in a certain way now, again in a different way. Because this is an ongoing process. So even though I feel like I get this, I'm still learning sometimes through different situations. But I wanted to teach this Lilith 4-day healing intensive, and the energy wasn't there. Like, it was neutral, and I knew that I wanted to do it, but my energy field didn't light up, and the circumstance in 3D wouldn't support it. So I kept asking my guides, what is this? What is this? And one of my guides finally came through months later and said, it's not right for you. It's not the right thing for you at this time. And I said, oh, can you tell me why? The guy told me why. And I was like, oh, I feel the truth of that. Meaning my brain wasn't fighting and arguing. I saw the higher truth, and I was able to in a calm way adapt that and put two and two together. That's why the energy surrounding it is neutral. It's not the right thing to do, even though I wanted to do it. So it's like an extended exercise of a version of the exercise of imagining some possibility and seeing if it has energy to it, like if it feels right or if it doesn't. And your brain, your egoic self, there's nothing wrong with having these things. I don't treat ego as a negative, but I encourage you to learn how to align it with a sense of something bigger than itself so that you and it can be of service. In the same way, your linear logical mind, logistics, planning, logic, timing, details, cause and effect. Yes, amazing. Please have that strong within you. Please develop that and have it serve your spirit and your heart and your highest intentions. So this is for some of us, this is a confusing time. This whole Neptune square the nodes bit. And it is incumbent upon you to learn where your beliefs, where your ideas come from, and where they resonate in your body. Like I said, if it's your brain, it's probably fear-based. And don't shame yourself if that's true for certain things, because that thing with teaching the intensive, it was fear-based. Part of me wanted to do something that would make up what my brain perceived would make up for a past mistake. So it looks like a good idea. Of course, I'm going to push forward and do it. And it's all mental energy. And the guide said, can you just let it go and forgive yourself and just let it go? And I was like, yeah. And the energy shifted around it because my brain wasn't trying to force something. But anyway, your brain will have lists of things. So why is this the right thing for me? If it's your brain, it will endlessly explain why. The inner narrative will unfold and continue and continue. Well, because of this and this, and you remember that thing happened, and because I wanted to do this, and this is what I'm going to get out of it, and this is what I have to share, and I have to on and on and on and on and on. If it's something true for you, you might not have all those words, and the energy wouldn't come from your brain and your mouth. It feels right. So there's a series of exercises, right, to get comfortable discerning where those messages and ideas and beliefs come from. So there are facts, there are beliefs, and there are things that feel true or not feel true. There's a feeling, a resonance. This is one of the, like I said, it's a challenging time. It's one of the hardest things that people can do, because the two ways of knowing, Gemini Sagittarius or Mercury Jupiter, left brain Mercury, right brain Jupiter, these different ways of knowing, we can argue forever. Like somebody says, well, here's a fact. And I say, well, it's actually, you believe it's true, but it's not a fact. It's something somebody said was a fact, but there's no data behind it. And then we can go back and forth and argue about that forever, which is why I'm not doing that with anybody right now. Like, I'm not arguing what you think is true. I've decided to focus on what the most important thing for me is, that for those people who want to learn how to do that inner resonance trick or process, I'm available to teach you. But I'm not arguing about this or that. I'm not arguing. I'm not entertaining people's conspiracy theories. Like, I don't care. And if you sound like you joined a cult, Godspeed to you. I'm not available. You know, it's like I'm really focusing on what's true for me, which is that I have the ability to help some people come out of, people who are interested, who are willing to be open-minded enough to see that there are three things happening: my beliefs, and then my questions and data, and my assumptions and beliefs and questions and data, and then that sense of it's challenging for me to find that inner truth. How can I develop that sense of discernment? What a lot of people are in their brains, in my experience, a lot of people may go to their brains because the brains are clever and have ideas on how to do things. And the brains sometimes say, I can overcome the disempowerment that the rest of me doesn't like feeling because I'm clever and I can do this and strategy and tips and tricks and hacks and workarounds and whatever. But the more we live in our brains, the more we ignore our hearts and our spirits. So there are also certain frequencies that are just brain oriented. And again, guides can't get through to you if you're up in your brain only. And I can't read for you effectively if you're not open and willing to receive in your heart. So anyway, it's a challenging time, and everybody's responsible for their own vibrations. And here's the last thing I'll share is that everybody can find that sense of what vibrates as true. Find that sense of connection to higher self, being able to hear guides or guidance or masters and angels or whatever. But you have to have the humility to not defend against everything with your brain because you've been hurt in the past. Yes, you've been hurt. Everybody has. And the brain's logic is, I need to defend myself against that future possibility. So I'll offer you that indicator, measure, indicator is a better word, best word, of those several, that you are approaching and progressing with spiritual growth, spiritual maturity. By the way, it's not through meditation and wishing on the best and mantras and mudras and yoga. It's chanting. It's actually the evolution of consciousness, and I would say from fear into love. And that means from brain into heart and spirit, from brain into body and heart and spirit, from brain into whole body, right? Whole being, right? Regardless of meditation techniques or how many spiritual classes you take or something, it's in going from that fear that the brain runs the life with because it doesn't want to feel pain to the mature facing of pain, bringing of compassion, learning to grow into a more open heart. Like, love is the answer, but we have to face our traumas and fears and pains too. Anyway, so you can check out, thanks for your time and energy. I hope this thing about the Neptune bit, Neptune feels inscrutable, right? It feels inexplicable, but it is, you are able to explain it as long as you don't shrug and give up and say, I guess it's just weird that way. Anyway, so thanks for your time and energy, and you can check out what I'm up to at tdjacobs.com. That's where all my services are offered, and all the books and all the everything. Readings and tutoring and home study classes and everything. And healingsuicide.com is kind of it's not about my work and products and services. It's more about a story about soul and how it understands your human life, how to deal with some difficult emotions that make us feel despair, and how to understand suicide as it affects the soul. Whether you've lost somebody or feel despair and part of you keeps saying that's what I should do, or you've survived an attempt and want to understand how to unravel some of those feelings and really understand the bigger picture of how that fits into our soul's journey. So anyway, tdjacobs.com, healingsuicide.com. Take care of yourself.